You ever go to the doctor and feel like you're talking more to the back of their laptop than to them? Well, there's this new AI technology, an invisible assistant, that's creeping into the exam room, and it promises to fix all that. But the big question is, does it actually work? Let's get into it.
And this, right here, this is the heart of the problem. It's this constant battle for your doctor between listening to you, really connecting with you, and the absolute need to document every last word in that electronic health record. It's frustrating for them, and it's frustrating for you. And we're not just talking about a minor inconvenience for doctors. This is a massive issue in modern medicine. The sheer weight of all this digital paperwork is driving a real crisis in the healthcare industry.
Yeah, and this isn't just a feeling they have. A major study in the Journal of the American Medical Association, JAMA, points the finger directly at this documentation burden as one of the biggest reasons for physician burnout. It's just grinding them down.
So what's the big high-tech solution on the table? Well, it's a tool that promises to take over all the note-taking so doctors can get back to, well, being doctors.
It's called Ambient Dictation. Just picture an invisible scribe in the corner of the room listening to the entire back and forth between you and your doctor. And then, almost instantly, it turns that whole conversation into the detailed, structured note that the medical record requires. No more typing, just talking. So how does this magic actually happen? It's basically a three-step dance. First, you've got speech recognition, which just turns the spoken words into text. Simple enough. Then, natural language processing kicks in to figure out the medical context, what it all means. And finally, generative AI, the same kind of tech behind stuff like ChatGPT, takes all that and writes up a brand new, organized clinical note. Okay, that all sounds absolutely incredible in a press release. But what happens when you drop this AI assistant into the messy, unpredictable real world of a doctor's office? Does it hold up? Well, to find that out, researchers did a deep dive for a study published in JAMA. They handed this tech over to 46 clinicians working in 17 different fields. We're talking everything from family medicine to neurosurgery, and they just watched to see what happened. So the first huge finding was the impact on what doctors call pajama time. That's the work they have to take home and finish in their PJs. The study found a 30% drop in that after-hours work. It went from about 50 minutes a day down to 35. That is a huge win for work-life balance. And where did that time come from? Well, right here. The data showed that for every single appointment, the time they spent working on the note dropped by about 2 minutes. Now, 2 minutes might not sound like a lot, but multiply that by, say, 30 patients a day, and suddenly you're talking about a whole hour saved. It adds up fast. But this is where it gets really interesting. Kind of weird, actually. Even though doctors were typing almost 30% less, the finished medical notes were over 20% longer. The researchers call it note bloat. The AI is so good at capturing every little detail that it ends up creating these incredibly comprehensive, but maybe also kind of wordy notes. So the numbers clearly show it's more efficient. But, data can't tell you everything. How did the doctors actually feel about having this AI listening in on their conversations? On one side, you had absolute rave reviews. Listen to this provider from a pilot program at Yukon Health. They say it slashed their burnout, boosted their job satisfaction, and that they literally can't imagine working without it now. For some, this thing was a complete game changer. But then you have the other side of the coin. A doctor from the JAMA study said the time they spent checking and correcting all the AI's mistakes was just as bad, if not worse, than just typing the note themselves. This really gets to the core issue, accuracy. So how do you possibly square these two totally opposite experiences? Well, the study used a metric called a Net Promoter Score. It's a fancy way of asking, hey, would you recommend this thing to a friend? And the score they got was 0, a perfect 0. That means for every single doctor who loved it, there was another one who hated it. It's basically the statistical version of a giant shrug. And you really see this divide when you dig into the doctor's written comments. Things like efficiency and patient engagement, mostly positive. But when you look at the feedback on the actual documentation burden and note quality, it was split right down the middle. People complained about wordiness, inaccuracies, and just constantly having to play editor. But here's the thing. Even with all the complaints about editing, one really powerful benefit just kept coming up again and again.
Doctors said it dramatically lowered their mental load. The AI was like having a perfect memory, catching all the little details they might have forgotten. And that freed up so much brain space they could stop worrying about the note and just be fully present with their patients.
So where does all this leave us? Is this AI assistant the future of the doctor's office, or is it just another piece of tech that's been a little bit overhyped? All right, let's wrap this up. Here's what we know. This tool absolutely cuts down on that after-hours pajama time. It helps doctors be more engaged. But, and this is a big but, it doesn't get rid of the keyboard. The editing is still a major factor, and the note quality can be a mixed bag. So it's a super promising tool for sure, but it is not a magic bullet. Not yet, anyway. And that leaves us with one last big question to think about. As this technology gets better and becomes more and more common, we have to ask, when there's an AI in the room, who really benefits the most? Is it the doctor, the patient, or is it the healthcare system as a whole? The final chapter on that is still being written.